Hello, welcome to a new episode of Diary of a GhostEO. That's me. I mean, it's a little bit like one of my normal episodes, just that we go to a different Minecraft world and that there is someone here. Who are you?
Sarah?
Oh, okay. So
Is
let's
that how
go.
you're gonna introduce me every time? You're just gonna be like, who's that?
Yeah,
I don't know,
people are surprised every
okay,
time.
okay.
Well, let's go straight into Ourcraft and let's like and subscribe. All right, so you're here again. What are we going to talk about today?
You had a topic that was somehow related to the idea of wokeness or something. You didn't really elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, I did kind of talk about this, but I sort of forgot what my point was. I've been thinking about this lately, how thoughts are really fleeting, you know? We have like these ideas, and they're kind of like castles in the sky, built to fail. I don't know, that's a bit of a mixed. Ooh, look, an armadillo.
Yeah.
Good, right? I think my idea, there's two ideas I had, right? Like, I feel like with wokeness, right? We're kind of like feeling a really massive backlash now, in the sense that liberals who before were like, this is really important, right?
Yeah.
At least ostensibly being woke. Like, I think that's kind of, we can talk about like what's real versus what is just like pandering. But anyways, they were kind of like on the side of this, right? Like, we have to be woke, whatever.
Oh yeah,
And now,
didn't a Democrat politician recently say something about we went too far with the wokeness or something?
no, exactly. This is sort of my point, right? And I kind of like, now they're kind of all, oh, wokeness cost us the election or something like that, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
and we'll never be woke again. And I feel like it's kind of like it's giving me whiplash in how fast these people change their views. That's basically my point. Because I think there was value in discussing what aspects of, well, first of all, what do we understand under the term wokeness, right? Like, it's kind of a complicated thing. And then secondly, like, okay, what parts of it are good, what parts of it are problematic, you know? I mean, problematic by itself is a bit of a woke term, if you know what I mean. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really kept up with what people are blaming for the loss of the election, but I don't think it's wokeness. I think it was just bad campaign without clear message. But the whole wokeness thing is interesting, though.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they always, like, there's a bunch of things that are termed under this, right? Like, I think one thing that Democrats are basically, some Democrats are saying is like, well, it's the trans stuff that cost us the election, you know? And that kind of falls under the wokeness umbrella.
I mean, it's definitely not that.
It's definitely, no, of course, it's definitely not that. It's
Oh,
kind of,
wait, no. Wait, is it back?
yeah, I don't know.
It started dinging. Did you hear that? Ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding. Okay. I
I
think it's
did hear
fine.
the
Okay,
ding,
yeah.
ding, ding.
Okay.
I mean, that's a bit of the problem with the camera.
Yeah. So, what is wokeness?
Yeah, okay. I mean, this is a good start, right? And I mean, when I was talking to you about this, I was kind of thinking I would do a little bit of research, but instead we're just jumping right into it. But I guess, like, generally,
Really dark. Is it night? Can you see?
I mean, I can sort of see,
Oh,
but
it's so dark.
yeah, it is quite dark. But I mean, generally, like, the idea of wokeness, as far as I understand it, and there might be other things, is that it comes from the civil rights movement, kind of, right? Like, in black culture in the United States, talking about trying to keep staying aware of the
It's about awareness of like
discrimination, and not like buying into the overarching narrative, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of the start, right? And then, like, the problem, as I see it, and the same as with DEI or whatever, is that Republicans then use this as some sort of fighting term, right? And they frame it in whatever way they want, right?
Yeah.
And so so everything like becomes woke, right? Like there was like this example of a lot of these right wingers not being able to even define what they mean with wokeness, because it's basically just like stuff we don't like,
Yeah.
right? Like that's basically what they mean by that, right? And so I guess like in a broad term, it's like some sort of progressive social policies, like allowing trans people to transition, pointing out and perhaps implementing some policies against racial inequality in the United States, like
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. This is basically what like the kind of anti-woke stuff boils down to. And what I think like some people basically want is like, well, okay, so here's kind of like a weirder framing, but I think it's sort of true, right? It's kind of like, well, when I was a kid, I thought the United States was the greatest country in the world, and the founding fathers were the best, and there was nothing that we ever did wrong, really. And I just really like to feel that way. Like,
It sounds
just,
like the same with people in the UK.
yeah, of course. No, I'm just talking about like wokeness is not a term that's
Yeah.
used in European discourse nearly as much.
In the UK it's used a lot.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like the UK gets.
We're so influenced by the US that we're
Yeah.
really connected.
Like, like a teacup. You're half English, so you know this, right? Like, like a teacup
Yeah.
has like this little plate under it, right?
Yeah.
And like I feel like the US and it's kind of like the teacup, right? And full of the tea. Yeah.
Oh no.
And then like sometimes it spills over and the tracks flow down into the UK.
Oh no, what happened to me?
I don't really know. Do we need to pause or something? Maybe.
Yeah, let me see.
All right.
What's going on with me?
I mean, I'm just gonna power through. I'm recording, so I'm
okay.
gonna go. And I was just making, like, pointing out how the UK is a little bit like the little brother in terms of rhetoric of the United States.
Yes, I mean, lots of people have said that.
Well, I mean, because it's true. Lots of people say true things. Some people say wrong things too. So yeah, basically, this is kind of like the problem with woke, if we were talking about this. And I think, I mean, I would never call myself woke or whatever, right? Like, it's just not the kind of framing I think. But I'm broadly in favor of basically everything, more or less, that falls under like the woke banner. The only thing is, I find that the democratic framing of it, oh boy, the democratic framing of it is often like very class unconscious, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Do you perhaps want to, like, by like the people are coming here for my take, so if you kind of like,
give me a sec.
Okay, we're doing this live though.
I'm going. So.
Could you perhaps just use the?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. But like all of the menus are showing up as well.
Yeah, I know. I have to cut the out of my vision. Yeah. Okay.
Good. So I think like this is actually like what I said. I know you're kind of like aware of this, and like it's discourse in a small subset of people, but actually I think like the democratic propensity to really not think about class aspects is not something that like the broad general electorate is thinking about, to be quite honest.
You think so? I mean,
I think like we're like I think like that.
No, I mean they're definitely not seen as the party of the working class or anything like that.
Yeah, but no one really sees themselves as working class in the United States, right? Like that's not a constituency.
Yeah.
So I do think this is kind of like to restart my point, right? Like my problem is like that I agree with all of these things, right? Like more rights and more positive and negative rights for minorities on all in all aspects of society.
Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. But then I'm kind of like, but like if we just focus on who's, whether the CIA director is a woman, that's probably not sufficient, right? And so there's kind of like wokeness being used to obfuscate other aspects. It was right, like
Yeah,
now they're leaving all of these groups behind, more or less, right? Like that's kind of like my general vibe. And it's like, well, what can we do? I guess the Republicans won, and fuck you guys, should have voted for us harder. Like kind of that seems to be the general vibe I get right now.
Yeah, so I found the article. A Virginia Democrat said that the criticism of Democratic Party's over-the-top wokeism is a valid attack. Like, the thing is, they never really stand up for anything. I mean, or stick by their principles, really, as a whole, these people.
Well, they sort of don't have principles.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the
Yeah.
Democratic Party,
They
right?
just, like, roll over at every criticism. And
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with Labour too, and with the Social Democrats in Germany, right? Like they have like very vague things that they sort of are for, but mostly they're for being voted into in some way or another, or like keeping their jobs. I think that's like really the number one thing that they are about. While someone like Bernie Sanders or Jeremy Corbyn, right?
Yeah.
They will not. They have an idea, like they know. Okay,
they stand for something.
They stand for something. Yeah, they have like. I mean, in that sense, it's a bad word, but here I use it as a positive. They have an ideology that they stand by, right?
Yeah.
Like they see the world in a specific way and they want to change it in a specific way. And if it's not going that way in an election, that won't like fundamentally change how they're feeling. They're just like, okay, we need to advocate for what I believe is true harder.
As usual, it's like kind of blaming the left. The majority of the party realizes the ideological purity of some groups is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, kind of, right? That was what I was just talking about, right? Like how I think people actually appreciate ideological purity,
Yeah, I mean, the thing, the alternative to what he's saying is that they don't stand for anything or have any principles. They're just purely like, vote for us because we're not the Republicans.
Exactly. And that's kind of like, I think that's kind of the bigger problem that like both Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, right? Obviously faced problems for being women, but their bigger problem is that they're these kind of like, they're the perfect Democrats.
Yeah.
And no one likes Democrats, right?
Yeah, it's super rehearsed. They're like puppets. They just say the lines they're supposed to say. They don't really have. I mean, Hillary Clinton had more personality, but even then, it's like it just everything felt very stiff and unnatural.
And she just changed so much depending on like polling over the years, right?
Yeah.
Like she just seemed quite fake and was very for a long time that fake, right? And Kamala Harris, right? Like this is the problem, right? Like I mean, I didn't like Kamala Harris since the since she was in the primary. I didn't know her before, really, but in the primary, right? A lot of people were pretending to be like Bernie's policies, right?
Yeah.
Like she was that's kind of like what she was also like dinged for. That like initially I think she was even for Medicare for all, which like they completely dropped.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I think if she had like actually advocated for this in some way or another, this would have seemed like something. Oh, okay, that's an interesting new thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so I don't know. I think that's kind of like the real problem with the Democrats, which is not wokeness. They're not woke enough. My point.
So the senator mentioned how fewer people consume traditional media, and Trump was so ahead of his time on sorting that out with a huge reinforcing network of supporters, of followers. That's extraordinary, and Democrats have a lot to learn from that. That's kind of true. Democrats have really dropped the ball on like social media and like online.
So it's true that Trump is way better with social media. It's not true that he created this, right?
Oh, no.
Like this is the problem, right? Like they're kind of talking about as if like Donald Trump created this. It's just like someone who talks like honestly will do better in these places, because these people just like sitting down and they're talking for 3 hours And if you're like, you know, like this the stiffest politician in the whole world, you're not going to do well on that.
Yeah.
Like, can you like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, can you imagine Kamala Harris on Joe Rogan?
No.
Like, can you, like, what are they going to talk about? Like, you know. So that's fine. I mean, Bernie Sanders was on Joe Rogan and it worked. And Joe Rogan, like, let's remember this. Like, Bernie, who describes himself as a socialist, like, Joe Rogan was like, I think I'll vote for him. I think he's the best.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if, like, Joe Rogan was, like, this far-right guy that we're, like, pretending he was, you know? I don't know. I think, like, the Democrats dropped the ball in this sense.
Joe Rogan just agrees with whoever he's talking to, doesn't he?
Maybe, but, like, he often, like, the way that he does, I don't watch him. I have no idea, right? But, like, the way that he does podcasting is, like, that he's very agreeable on anything, right?
Yeah.
But
with whoever
like,
he's talking to. Just he switches.
But this endorsement didn't come while talking to Bernie. It came while talking to someone else who asked him the question. So he, like, this actually like was on his mind, right? To some degree.
Yeah. And a lot of people listen to him, so it's still something you have to consider whether he's like being ridiculous or not.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if I made all of my points on wokeness, but I mean, I can make another video about it with a bit more thought. Do you have any points you want to make?
Wrong. Need to. I don't know why. How many?
I mean, generally, just ideally, you always look into the camera or near the camera.
Yeah, but why would it keep disconnecting?
I don't know. I feel like I mean, does it not? Do you press this button?
No, I don't press anything. Whoa. There it is.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the struggle of a VTuber.
Yep.
Goddamn Democrats not helping us with the VTubing. Any final words?
Not really.
Okay. All right. I think so. I'm actually in a relatively good position. So in the next one, I can potentially make myself a house, find some food, and maybe make a bed. I don't know what that was. And maybe I'll survive, because I died like 5 times so far. I'll see you guys in the next one. Like again, but don't unlike. And stay spoopy, friends.